On this episode, we stuff our faces like true Americans.
Don't you think it's insensitive to our international audience? Wait, can we go back to the intro?
Welcome to Save Every Universe. My name is Alec Garcia. I'm a masked slob feasting on piles of meat, or that little orphan in a poncho if I could just get my hands on her.
Oh my god, sorry, give me a second. I don't even know what that is. That just sounds gross. And my name is Robbie. I'm a fighting echidna, the last of my kind, and the sworn guardian of the Master Emerald who likes to punch first and ask questions later.
And who were you last week?
Last week I guess his name is Rash, the Battletoad.
Battletoads was a great game.
Apparently they all have skin names, like Rash, Pimple, Zit.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. I don't remember them actually, like, their names being prominent in the game.
That was a cool game, though. Like, where you get on the little speeder bike things and all that stuff. And yeah, it was a good game. I liked
that game. There was a crossover with Double Dragon that was
That's right.
awesome. But I had it on Game Gear.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was thinking about the Game Gear the other day when we have a episode coming in the near future about fighting games, and I was thinking about Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And everyone knows probably at this point I'm not a big fan of fighting games, but Mortal Kombat on Game Gear, and you had to put like 8 AA batteries
took
in
at least 20 batteries. Yeah, it took so many batteries.
If you went on a car ride, you had to buy like a brick of AA batteries to make it last the road trip and stuff.
I mostly just played it like plugged into walls places.
Yeah, that was the smart way to do it.
It's probably a good way to find me.
There was a Looney Tunes game with Roadrunner that was really good on that too.
There was a Tasmanian Devil game I think I played.
There was a Looney Tunes underrated.
We can do an episode about Looney Tunes
related.
The Looney Tunes genre. I think there's a real area for a comeback there.
People are itching to know about that.
I want to know what happened to Bugs. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see an origin story about some dark, pained, realistic.
The Wile E. Coyote has to have some sort of a dark backstory, I think.
I mean,
he does. Like, what drives him to kill the Roadrunner?
See, if you didn't listen to our origin story episode, this is a good example of how we like demand more
of
like
games that really shouldn't have origin story.
What motivates the coyote? Like, what happened to his mother that has caused him to want to consume the? Are we all the coyote?
If we dove into it, like you would have to assume that the Roadrunner like did something bad at some point to the coyote,
and now he wants to eat him?
Or he did something that inadvertently damaged the coyote because he's pretty oblivious, and so
is he?
Anyway, last week I was Orchid from Killer Instinct.
And last week... Oh, I already said who I was.
And before we get into today's episode, we want to kick off this... it's sort of a Thanksgiving special episode.
Yeah, so maybe it's fitting that we started with Wile E. Coyote trying to eat the Roadrunner, because today we're going to talk about...
eating birds.
Well, eating whatever. I mean, if you've ever seen Alec play Breath of the Wild, it is kind of like Wile E. Coyote stuff. So I thought, in honor of Thanksgiving, we should talk about restoring health, like how food works in video games. What are some of our like thoughts on that? It sounds kind of silly, but if you think about it, there's a lot of like mental satisfaction or frustration from how you restore your health.
Yeah, and it actually is a really big topic within the game development community of how do you, like I found a presentation from a guy who the presentation was called Made of Meat Health Systems in Video Games. This guy created a game called Catacomb Kids, which I had never heard of, but it actually came out in 2015 and it has really good ratings on Steam. It's a platformer type of game. The guy's name is Tyreek Plummer. He gave like an entire presentation about thinking about health systems in video games. So it actually is a fairly deep and broad topic. And so as we release this episode, it's Thanksgiving week here in the States. And we thought it would just be kind of cool to dive into health systems, food, and how that relates in games, that kind of thing. What have you on the docket today, Robbie? Do you have any opening thoughts for us?
I think food food and storytelling is obviously powerful, right? I mean, how many books have you read or movies have you watched where it's like, it can be like a really central piece and like help you connect. I mean, obviously in like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Willy Wonka, stuff like that, it's a big part. But even like, or think about like how powerful the scene was, like one of my childhood movies was Hook. I mean, the power of that scene of them like imagining food and how hungry he was, and like you felt, I mean, as a kid and even like watching it as an adult, like you feel Robin Williams, like he's starving, and these kids are like satisfied, and then when he finally like plays the game and gets the food, like you kind of feel that relief. It's a very basic, savage hunger is something that anybody can relate to.
Yeah.
I mean, Jim Gaffigan's made a whole career out of
food.
And it's great. Like, I'm not saying, I mean, I like some of his stuff. He's got some really funny stuff.
Yeah.
And when I'm listening to Jim Gaffigan routine, I'll be laughing and suddenly realize, like, I've been laughing about food for like 30 minutes. but it's so relatable and it's so like it's so easy to connect because everybody has to eat.
And when games use just going on that real quick before we move on, but when games use hunger as a driver, it really is a cool, just primal thing, because we talk about, like we talked in our Origin Stories episode about like all these like higher concept things of like what drives them about this betrayal or whatever. But like when it's something as simple as like needing to survive and eat, that it's a cool dimension that's universal. Like,
absolutely.
Like
yeah, I mean, if you don't incorporate, to me, it's a missed opportunity in a game to not find some way to incorporate. But just like what you were saying, like for me, in some of these games where you like have to stay hydrated or you have to eat, like it makes me intimidated. It's like uncomfortable, and like I get stressed out thinking about, I mean, if you see me in real life, I don't like to skip meals. So it stresses me out to think about like starving to death, and I think it stresses everybody out.
Let me ask you this, like I think it is a cool dynamic, but at what point does it go too far? Because there's a point in games with me where it's like I'm playing a game to escape. I don't want to always be managing hunger and thirst and sleep and all these other things.
Yes.
When do you think that goes too far?
There are games, let me see if I remember correctly. I believe in like Fallout 1 for the PC.
Yeah.
It was hard. Like I remember it being like getting dehydrated and stuff was it gets to the point where it can be distracting. You're like, I want to move on with the story and I want to move on with other things, but I apparently have to go eat and have to go do this. And even like in the beginning of Breath of the Wild, it was a little like, I want to fight stuff, but I'm not going to get my health back. And I would like run from fights.
I have to go get some apples out of a tree or something.
Like let me go shake this tree and then I'm going to come back and beat your ass. Like that felt a little silly.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually I got to the point probably because I had amiibos and just gathering all this shit.
Yeah.
Like eventually I was carrying a pantry with me everywhere I went, which is completely unrealistic, right? I think once if it's constantly detracting from the mechanics and that kind of thing, that's when it starts going too far.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, where it goes from just like a mechanic that adds dimension to the game to it distracting you, and you're managing your hunger and you're managing your thirst more than you're fighting bad guys or doing whatever it is you're supposed to be doing in the game. Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I think is kind of interesting is the amount of relief you can feel fictionally, you know, of like getting that food and getting that health back. I mean, and maybe Breath of the Wild is a good example of that as well. When you're on that thin red line and you're like, everything is making you nervous. Yeah. You're jumpy in the game. You're like, I'm going to die. Some stray rock is going to kill me. It's so relieving to finally like get that health back.
And a lot of games in the survival horror or post-apocalyptic genre do that really well, that push you just to the wire of like constantly making you feel like you're barely surviving. Games like The Evil Within and Silent Hill that were a little bit more of those extreme survival type games where you were just always crapping your pants, feeling like you were about to die and you never had enough health, and those kinds of things did that type of experience really well. And more recently, Little Nightmares, I had read somewhere that the game was originally called Hunger. And so at the end of each chapter, like your little character tummy starts grumbling and you get really, really hungry. And it starts out in the first level that someone out of the kindness of their heart provides you some food. And then it gets darker and darker and darker each time. But the experience of getting to that end of that level and barely surviving and then feeling like hunger's going to kill you after everything that you survived. They did a nice job of using hunger as like sort of urgency fear device.
Yeah, it's true. It's, and it's not too often that gluttony hurts you. I mean, I can sit there in Zelda and eat like 30 apples. Right. And Link doesn't go puke or anything. Yeah. With the exception of maybe Fable. I don't know if you remember, but you could get fat.
Oh, yeah.
If you like ate nothing but cakes.
Yeah.
Like, I would plump up and you'd have to go like eat celery to get thin again. Yeah. And like, it was kind of obnoxious having to wait. I was like, man, I struggle with this enough in real life. Like, if I want to eat cake in a video game, at least let me do that.
Right.
But, I think it made you think about what you were going to eat. You'd be low on health. You'd be in the middle of a fight and you'd be like, I only got cake in my inventory. Do I want to make my guy some fat ass?
I'm going to pay for this. Yeah. My hips are going to pay for this later.
Let's be honest. If I'm swinging a sword fighting demons, I should be burning some like substantial calories.
Yeah. So in terms of other health systems that I always found like sort of obnoxious and I know this is probably blasphemy to a lot of people, was in Metal Gear Solid 3. There was a lot of stuff where you had to like get medical supplies and fix your broken bones. And it was like a lot of people loved how realistic it was and how you had to like constantly change your camo. And there were so many intricacies to that game.
Yeah.
Not for me. It was too much. It was like you spent all of your time like switching out your loadout and fixing your crap. When I think of a Metal Gear Solid game, I want to sneak around and shoot some people. And I that was really difficult for me. But in terms of games that I think did it well, you brought up Fallout, and that's one of the that's one of the only games out there that, I mean, there are other games that do it, but popular games that come to my mind that did like limb specific health stuff, which I think is actually really cool.
Yeah, and it would affect how you shot, it'd affect how you run.
Yeah.
You have to like use a stim pack like specifically on a limb.
Yeah.
And you didn't get as much health back, but you'd like regain the use of that limb.
Yeah.
That was a really cool system.
Yeah, and I that made so much sense in the world of Fallout. And I like that. I like when the health systems are like thought out and they're a cohesive part of it rather than it just being like a HP bar.
Yeah, you know, though, one of the games I thought was really satisfying that was a little bit different was Left 4 Dead. Because you had the health kits, and I liked, by the way, that you pulled out like medical tape or whatever and like looked like you were like trying to bandage up when you put it on. But that the pills gave you false health.
Right.
Remember, it would give you like health that you kept just while you were on the pills, and it would go away because you were, I guess, high. I don't know, but
like it gave you enough to like push through the pain, even though you weren't actually better.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was such a cool idea.
I think Max Payne did a similar thing where you would pop pain pills to like just keep going and shooting people, and it was like,
but you didn't get any like real health back. It's a really unique spin on how you would use medicine, because sometimes medicine isn't actually making you better. Yeah. It's just suppressing the feeling or the symptom or whatever. So I thought that was a really unique way of doing that. I remember when I was playing World of Warcraft for like the early times, you actually had to use like bread to restore health and water to restore mana. And like I always did them separately. Yeah. And there was even like a tooltip one day that was like, you can eat and drink at the same time. And I was like, oh, I can restore everything at this. Which of course you can, but like you had to find a little spot and like sit down and you couldn't get interrupted or it would like mess everything up. And then they even like put in like buffs where if you sat and ate for so much time, you got like experience bonuses, or you get stat bonuses,
which is like sitting and resting in real life is more restorative to you than throwing down a granola bar on the go.
It's true, but the problem was when I first played, I was like, this is a neat system, but I like became increasingly entitled, and I think the whole community did. I was like, do I really have to carry around twice as much healing shit? Do I really have to like eat for how long do I have to fucking sit here to get this arbitrary buff that you know I have to get? Like it changed over time from like the early vanilla days where I was like, I thought it was neat, to now where I'm like, this is an inconvenience and an outrage. And
it is a really fine line of, because people say they want things to be realistic, but at the end of the day, I think most people don't actually want that. They're playing the game to have an escape from reality. Some of the systems though, Far Cry 2 was one of my favorite shooters of all time. I thought they brought so many new things into the genre, but one of the cool things that they did was like you would fall or get shot or whatever, and they had like these little like heal yourself real quick things in the middle of combat. You'd like look down and your finger would be like snapped off to the side, and you'd like the guy would like break it back into place and set it. That's right. Or he'd like reach down with like a Leatherman set of pliers kind of thing and pull a bullet out of his leg and wrap it up, or like strike a bunch of matches and cauterize a wound in his arm. But it was like this really cool and more quote realistic than a lot of other stuff in any other shooter, but it didn't go so far that it like detracted from like the action and the moment of the gameplay. It was just this other cool dimension of a thing, and it gave you something you'd never seen before, something that was, I mean, it still wasn't realistic, but it added a new dimension to the gameplay.
I think that can be a tough line in shooters, especially now that it's so much more popular just to shake it off. I mean, Halo 1, you had health, remember, and you had a shield. And
I liked that system because you had the shield that would go down and regenerate, but once your health went down, it stayed down, and then your shield regenerated over the top of it. I actually really liked that system.
It was. I mean, it made kind of the search for health frantic, but then you were really relieved when you had that full health bar versus, you'd be playing on Legendary and you'd be like, I've only got one red bar, so you're going first or whatever. And you had to share if you remember. It didn't. Like, it'd be like, how many you got? Well, I only got this much. I'm getting the health. Like, it was, and I think Left 4 Dead was kind of like that too, where it was like,
you sort of had to decide who needed it most and that kind of thing. Yeah.
But it's kind of evolved a lot more into like, since Call of Duty where it's like you get red around the eyes, and you
Yeah.
just walk it off.
Yeah.
There comes a point, I think my brain, I can suspend it better in a sci-fi. I'm just like, well, there's probably some healing system or some
Right.
shit. But like when I go back and play like a World War II game and I'm just walking it off all the time,
Yeah.
I'm like, how many? I get that they were like the world's greatest generation.
Yeah.
But I don't think they could take like 30 bullets, walk it off
Yeah.
all the time. And I think it kind of hurts the fiction for me.
Actually, I thought that I don't remember feeling that way when I was younger and playing some of the early Call of Duties, but actually with the Call of Duty World War II, I remember like you're storming D-Day and it's like your screen flashes red and then you hide behind a thing and then it's like, yeah, it ruins it a little bit.
Though I don't know what the alternative is. They'd have to slow down the combat.
Right.
But the whole point is to have that high. So I get it.
Yeah.
And to keep that high speed combat, you gotta kind of have that. But
Yeah.
I think I was thinking about just different health systems for this, and I thought about Smash Brothers, right? Where it's like
that's a great one.
It's a different one because you start at 0%.
Yeah.
You get increasingly, like as your percentage goes up,
Yeah.
you get knocked around more.
Yeah.
And health is super satisfying, just as satisfying getting that percentage down.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think of another game that's not just a Smash clone that has that type of a system where you're like taking damage makes something go up.
Right.
And then you hit some type of critical mass.
The only thing I can think of is like sometimes I can't think of a specific game, but there are times where you're going around and you're taking it's usually like a vehicle, more of a vehicle mechanic where you take a certain amount of damage and then you explode, and it's like your gauge is going up to red and then you explode. Smash is kind of like that, but they did it in a way that I had never seen before and haven't really seen since, unless they were directly knocking it off.
Yeah, unless it's a Smash clone. I think it's a cool way of thinking in that it comes surprisingly naturally for how unique of a mechanic that is.
Yeah.
It's never like, I never remember being like, that's outrageous. Like, why would my percentage be going up? Like, I always remember being like, yeah, this makes sense. And yet I still...
It was one of those things that when you saw it, you were like, of course, like, why hasn't anyone done this before? It just felt so natural, but it was new.
But outside of a thing like blowing up, hitting that critical mass as a person or as a unit, there might be games out there where it is kind of like an explosion or something.
Yeah.
But, I always got the same amount of relief from like a heart piece or something, but it was such a cool, different way of like looking at health. So how do you feel about eating grenades?
Love them.
Is it satisfying?
I gobble them up.
Okay, but seriously, is it like a satisfying mechanic or is it...
In Destiny 2?
Yeah, in Destiny 2.
So if anyone doesn't know, in Destiny 2, the Warlock, one of the subclasses, you can eat your grenade for... to recharge your health. It really doesn't make any sense why it exists in the game. You know, I don't know if satisfying is the word. It feels a little bit weird, and I still sometimes like kind of forget that it's there, and then I get into a dire moment. I'm like, oh shit, I got nothing left. I better eat this grenade. Like, it really doesn't make any sense.
So can you throw it or eat it?
Yeah, so you tap it, you'll throw the grenade, you hold it, and he like charges up and holds his hand in front of his face and shoves it into his face, and your health recharges.
Oh man.
It doesn't really make any sense.
Ridiculous.
And if Void Energy could recharge a Warlock, then why can't Void Energy and the other subclasses also do the same thing?
So
it's a little bit, I love Warlock, and I love having that mechanic because there has been times where it bailed me out, but it's a little bit cheese. Why does it exist? I don't know.
I mean, the healing rift is cool, and I like when somebody runs a Warlock and I can step in that and get health.
Okay, so maybe there's the connection that their energy is healing or something like that.
I guess, but eating your own grenade, I mean, that's creative, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unique. I think it's particularly satisfying that you eat your grenades considering that you didn't cook in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. So when I first started playing Breath of the Wild, I didn't really think about the cooking mechanic at all, and I never like set out to like find one of the pots where you could cook stuff, and so like I just ate everything raw. I beat the whole game. I'm like on my second playthrough. I beat the whole game and ate everything raw the whole first time in the game.
So that's a good question. That leads me to a question like, isn't it have you ever gotten like kind of uncomfortable or unnerved by thinking about what your character's eating? I mean,
I've thought the whole time I was like, he's just eating raw fish, raw beef, and actually those weren't too bad. I was like, okay, you can eat like beef tartare. You can have raw beef. You won't maybe die, right? Raw fish, okay, sushi, that's fine. But raw poultry, like, that's insane. Like, you're gonna die.
Bat wings.
Yeah.
Like, you could eat some nasty shit in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, I laughed so damn hard when, I think we were having some random conversation where I was like, well, what meals did you make for the last boss? And you're like, meals? I was
like, what do you mean?
What do you mean? Like, you don't know what I'm talking about. And I just imagined you, like, tromping through, like, I'm gonna fight Ganon, but, like, you'd crawl into villages.
Like, Leo DiCaprio video on The Revenant where he just eats the animal raw just to survive. That was me the whole first playthrough
That's
of Breath
gross,
of the
man.
Wild. Yeah.
But like, I've even thought like in Mario, am I just gonna eat this mushroom that came out of a box, or
Yeah.
I get fire flower powers if I eat a flower?
Yeah.
Like, it's weird, right?
Yeah, the things people choose, game designers choose to like be like, this will restore you is a little bit weird.
It makes me uncomfortable. So I would probably never do a video game inspired Thanksgiving because of that. Like, not a real, oh, this is like eating.
If it was my Breath of the Wild Thanksgiving, it would be a raw bird, a raw frozen bird drumstick, a slice of gourmet raw beef.
Maybe some eggs.
Yeah,
Maybe
some
Easter
Hyrule
eggs.
field greens.
That's disgusting.
Thank you for listening to Save Every Universe. If you enjoyed this episode, please go listen to every other episode and give us money at patreon.com/Save Every Universe. Yeah, guilty by association.
No. No.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like Captain America, but I do not read Captain America comic books.
Yeah.
They're boring.
Why?
Because he's a candy ass. Fucking, let's all do the right thing.
Yeah.
He's much more enjoyable as a cinematic character.
He's not, though.
I think he is.
I don't think he's not.
He is. I think it shines to me better the contrast of those morals and that way of looking at the world.
Now I'm going to have to go watch Winter Soldier and figure out why it was good. Because Captain America is kind of an inherently boring character.
He's good in both Civil War and Winter Soldier.
He's not good in Civil War.
Because he stands his ground on his morals despite everything around him. It's like a true integrity story.
Yeah, but the way I remember that movie is just that he was just kind of an asshole. Like, he like stood his ground at like weird times and on weird issues, and I don't know.
He was saving his best friend's life.
I guess.
No, I guess.
The best friend was kind of a douche, though.
It was. What do you mean he was a douche?
He was a douche.
My best friend's a douche.
Twist. Like, the best friend wasn't relatable at all.
He doesn't have to be.
Yeah, he did.
Why?
Because I need to know why he's such a good guy that Captain America would... Like, it's not enough that they were war buddies.
They're not just war, but they were childhood friends.
Whatever.
And they show flashbacks.
I don't remember feeling any sympathy for him. And it's not just
Did you
because
watch...
I'm a sociopath.
I think that plays into it, though. You have to admit, at least give it a 30%. What about... Did you see the World War II one?
The first one?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
The Red Skull guy?
You didn't see that one?
No.
That's why you don't see it.
Oh.
That's all about their friendship.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the whole thing is about their relationship.
Okay, see, there you go. See, I haven't seen him, and you're more steeped in it.
I'm an outsider.
I am an outsider.
You're trying to like hipster like I don't know what I don't even know what that who is Captain America.
I have had it with all these Marvel things.
I feel like he's underrepresented.
Every new Netflix series is a damn Marvel. It's like Marvel. What is it? Marvel Inhumans and Marvel Star Agents and Marvel. It's like, what the fuck? They're just making things up. They just put Marvel and then they put a made up word at the end
Star
of
Agents. What the fuck
Agents
is
of
that?
Shield.
Dude, that's been out for like 5 years.
And now it's freaking Punisher and Zippity Man.
Have you seen any of that shit?
No.
Who is Zippity Man?
The Fast guy.
That's the Flash.
Yeah.
That's DC.
Does he not have a show?
He does, but he's not Marvel.
Is the Punisher DC? Punisher's
No,
DC.
he's Marvel. Dude,
Did they
I can't
cross
believe-
over?
No.
Arrow.
DC.
Really?
Yeah.
What's
Supergirl, DC.
Yeah. Oh, I know that.
Dude, all these CW things you're seeing are DC.
No, what's
and
the-
not, dude, how dare you speak bad about the Punisher? Have you seen that shit?
I like the
Well,
actor
actually.
a lot, though. I like the guy.
Have you seen?
I would give it a. I would give.
Have
the
you seen
Punisher a
Daredevil?
shot. Daredevil. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Have you seen it?
No. I watched the scene where the Punisher shows up in the diner with Daredevil because I was curious, like where the crossover was, and I
There's
thought
a
it was a
bunch
very
of- there's a
poorly
bunch of episodes
choreographed
about-
episode. I thought the whole scene was kind of.
Have you seen where they're in a?
They're like in a diner and the Punisher's there. It's from Daredevil, and he like Punisher beats people up and kills them, and it was just like really sloppy choreographing. Sorry, man.
I don't even know which scene you're talking about, and I just finished season 2.
YouTube it.
I've watched it. I've watched all.
Oh,
of
maybe
it.
it's on the upcoming season. It was like a preview of a crossover thing they're doing.
No, I mean Punisher's in Daredevil season 2,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of stuff.
There's a diner scene where the Punisher's like sitting at the booth and like this guy comes up and the Punisher just like starts fighting him and killing him.
Daredevil's not in that scene.
No, he's not. But it was sloppy choreographing. It was sloppy.
I don't know. I think it's good.
I thought the same. Like I saw a clip for the Punisher too, where he's like talking to Kingpin in the prison,
Yeah,
and
You
he's
see
like
that
they're
fight?
punching each other and stuff. And it was like the great Punisher fight with the Kingpin, and it was like it was so fake. It was so sloppy. It didn't even like it looked like
None of those are my favorite scenes. I mean, I didn't think they were terrible, but
they were bad, man.
dude, you should. No, well, I didn't even remember what our point was.
I don't either.
Oh, Bucky.
Oh, in the first one.
Yeah, that's no wonder you don't appreciate.
See,
That makes our argument about Civil War make so much more sense because you were like, who fucking cares? And I was like, dude, it's all about how they're like the only family they have. Like, how could you be such a dick about that?
So, okay, but if you're going to take an hour and a half, right? Like, I shouldn't go see that movie because I didn't see the first Captain America. Like, they have to do, it's a movie still. Like, they have to do enough to, like, build that backstory for someone who's never seen those other ones.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it's not. I don't know. It's all about
that whole movie felt so much sloppier and more disjointed than a lot of the other Marvel ones. Because I did like Avengers, and I liked Avengers 2, and I liked Winter Soldier, and I liked
Civil War is
Iron
not
Man.
as good as a just on its own. I think you do have to be
in it.
Like, have to appreciate
You have to be an insider.
Dude, these movies make like over $1 billion, I don't think.
There's insiders in there.
It's like an exclusive.
What do you think, they made this for the masses, Robbie?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I think you don't like it because it's popular.
No, I liked the other ones. I liked Avengers and stuff. I like Star Wars.
How about
That's popular.
How about Agents of Stars?
Agents of Stars.
How about
Marvel's Agents of Stars?
How about Marvel's Moon Heroes?
That's coming out on Netflix within the year. Watch.
How about Saviors of the Sun, dude?
I think they could make that Marvel's Saviors of the Sun,
dude.
And then there would be Marvel's Moon Heroes, and then there would be a crossover. Yeah,
that's all the Netflix stuff.
And then Sailor Moon would get a spinoff in the Marvel universe.
That'd be pretty rad, actually.
Yeah. See,
I'm just kidding. It's because I'm on the inside.
Yeah,
I've read the comics where that would totally make sense.